Hello, my name is Terry Bell. Today we're offering a webinar where we're looking at the challenges of selling, particularly holiday homes in Spain and Cyprus. We're going to extend out a little bit further into the murky world of floor clauses, plus some of the work we've done in the rest of the world. But I say mainly Spain and Cyprus, and it's very important to note, I'm going to say it a couple of times, this isn't a negative commentary. What we're trying to do is point out quite a few of the pitfalls that can come along. And one of the major issues always is pricing, especially holiday homes and anything that's essentially a foreign asset. So, as I said, my name is Terry Bell. I'm the chairman of Bell & Company and EU Property Solutions. We essentially help people that have any sort of debt problem, and that takes us inadvertently into the property world, and we understand, also we're not solicitors, we understand what goes on with property issues, be it price, title, whatever's going on. So I think that leaves us well versed that we can comment in this area as we deal with our solicitors in Spain and Cyprus on a weekly basis at least, and probably a couple of times a week with our Spanish solicitors, as that's a bigger market for us. A lot more issues there. A lot still haven't been resolved, so that's and in Spain we're finding that now every outcome involves the sale of the property one way or another. We used to be able to deal with issues without having to go through the sales process, but now they insist on it, given that it is such a difficult route to take. I'm going to touch briefly on negative equity because that's essentially what we primarily work in, and also going to introduce, after I was in visiting our Spanish solicitors last week in Cordoba, a great town, by the way. If ever you go there, it's a beautiful place to go to, and we were going through lots of cases we're dealing with and what's new. And in a few weeks' time, we're actually going to have a bit of a guest appearance, which should be quite interesting, because our solicitor speaks about as much English as I do Spanish, which is about 10%. So it's important that we keep ourselves here at EU up to speed with what's going on. In terms of property generally, I just did a small little bit of research, and I thought I'd heard a statistic before, and I went back and checked it out. And essentially, selling or moving from any property is one of the 5 most stressful things in your life. And then unfortunately, this is compounded and exacerbated with a foreign asset, given what's going on. No matter where you are in the world, in Bulgaria, the States, where we've done work, New Zealand, even Hungary, Czechoslovakia, etc., which we're going to touch on later, it's the foreigner, Johnny Foreigner, versus the locals, and forever it will be. And it varies slightly in different places, but that's what you're against. And if you're a landlord or an owner from afar, it's also very difficult. We know that in every walk of what we do, where there's property involved, not just holiday homes. So it's that backdrop, and again, it's these are pitfalls, and in reverse, sort of tips as well. Know where you are with things. It's a stressful situation, as we say, and it's just trying to get that across to make sure we manage our expectations in terms of what we have there. We recently sold a house in Yorkshire, and it was fortunately my wife dealt with most of it. She's very good that way, and it's not easy, it's not hard, it's not nice. It's a difficult enough thing. So that's what that's about there. Some of my commentary is quite route one, and by that I mean, so I'll say things like be realistic, and some people may take that as criticism. It's not meant like that, and I apologise in advance. But if I speak in a route one nature, it's the way we do business and how it works. Now, in this webinar, there are essentially 3 elements to it. We're going to look at Spain, we're going to look at Cyprus, and we're going to look at the rest of the world. But there's a little bit in before there, which I just want to introduce as well, which could be of use to you in there's potentially claims to be made on your Spanish mortgage if you've still got one or recently had one. And so we're going to go through that. And at the end, if you want, we can put our legal team at your disposal in Spain and our barrister in Cyprus, which is very, very important. Because we have, over the years, and we've been doing this now for about 10 years, developed these relationships and rapport with these people. And it's very, very important you know what you're dealing with. It's, again, especially from afar, it's very difficult. You can't just walk down the high street in Malaga, that solicitor or that abogado will do us. If you go to, in a minute, we go to Cyprus, and where it's a completely different gravy, as we now say in Northern Ireland, completely different and not in a good way. So it's making sure you have exactly the right advisors. We get nothing. If it's just a sale, we'll hand it to them. They'll get on with it and help you. That's their job. we get nothing from it. But that's an offer we're making, because trying to find these people is pretty difficult. Before we go to those individual markets, I do want to touch on what's called a floor clause. And it's something that, again, I picked up with our legal team in Spain last week. In Cordoba, there, down at the bottom, one of the hottest places in the country this time of the year. And they were talking about how the Supreme Court now has ratified a situation where Spanish banks only, were prone to putting in clauses into the mortgage that said the interest rates could only go to a certain level. After 2008, the financial crash, obviously we had, I think, about 12, 13 years of low rates, and down to, in the ECB, down to a negative at one point. So, you could have been as close as you could get to zero. In the contracts that the likes of Bank Inter, Bankier, the Kaiser, any of the Cajas, UCI or UCI, as I didn't realise it was called, they would have put these clauses in. And you have the ability to claim for that overcharge, because it didn't go with the ECB rate. It may have got stuck at 5%, 4%, or the one example I'm going to show in a minute, it was 3.75%. It didn't go down to the 0.5% or the 1%, wherever it was supposed to go. And that's called a floor clause, and it requires a legal application to court, a little bit of statute thrown in, that like I said, the Supreme Court has now decreed that these were wrong. And on that basis, we're able to make claims for our clients, and we work on a no-win, no-fee basis on this. And with my Spanish colleague there, Mr. Hinosa, I was able to walk through a case there that we did. Nearly was a bit of a trial case, test case, if you like, where somebody's recovered in total, including costs, €74,000 against a 438 mortgage. 438,000 mortgage, and their floor clause limit on that was 3.75%. It went down to 0.5%, so we've got, I think it was 11 and a half years of overcharge at 3.25%. Then you add the interest on the claim, because essentially that money's all gone, and the guys that we have in our office there, and our office in Leeds, give us the ability to turn around a case and tell you what you're eligible to within 24 hours. So I'm only mentioning it because it's quite hot off the news. There's the no-win, no-fee option. So it's if you have a mortgage, even if you're not quite up to speed in terms of payments, or you had a mortgage, give us a shout on it. We can look at it and tell you if you've got any chance of a claim or not very quickly. I digress. Spain. We're talking about selling properties in Spain. Spain is somewhere, a place I particularly like, but we were sort of brought there really on the business side of things. And when you get there and you work more extensively out there, suddenly you start to get the nuances of what's going on, especially in the property market world. We have essentially, in our opinion, four markets. You've got the new build, and there's a lot going on, a lot flying up, and bloody expensive stuff going up. You've got the build since 2012, and you've got the build 2008 backwards. There's a 4-year gap because nothing happened from 2008 to 2012, essentially, because of the financial crash. And then, very importantly, because this is where most prices anchor when it goes wrong, to the true Spanish market. And I'll give a little bit of an example to give you an idea. In, say, Corvera Golf, a penthouse may have cost €250,000. Now it's only worth €70,000, which is affordable for local Spanish people. It'll be the same in, say, Duquesa, down in the Costa del Sol, or Manilva. And that gets well served because Spanish people can buy there and work in Gibraltar if need be. And some people buy that as a second base. So the Spanish market is always a good ready reckoner on things that were grossly overpriced back in 2008. That's where, and within reason, I'll bore you with a quote in a minute, but if it's a local opposite, that's the value. So it's very important we get that. We deal primarily with 2008 backwards type properties because that was the big gold rush, too much money around. We know the plotted history here. I won't bore you with it. But because it was such a frothy market in every way, there's lots of sort of legacy issues with it, which have to be written into anybody's valuation on their property and or the ease of sale. You've got some instances where there are still some title issues out there, particularly on roadways and the like. The build quality wasn't always up there. We were at a golf course, Casares golf course, and you've got a number of properties there where the masonry is just falling away. And then you've got the market generally, the Spanish market isn't going crazy. Yeah, the centre of Madrid or the centre of Barcelona, etc., etc., they work well, but this 2008 frothy stuff, it's going nowhere. A lot of people seem to be hanging on the hope that it will come back. You may get incremental rises, but it's only on that from that low base level. So, for instance, if there's something that's there now 60,000, it may go up 5%, but that's only to 63,000, obviously. And the other instances you've got to consider on properties, and back in the 2008, some properties carry what are basically prohibitive management fees, and it has a real bad drag on a property value. And again, these are the things. Again, it's not reinforcing pain or making it look worse. It's what it is. You've got to build it into what you're trying to do to extricate yourself from that property. And I'm going to say it a few times that you have to be pragmatic. If you want to sell, you've got to go with the market price, and you've got to understand the property. And that is the biggest challenge, is valuing it. And I'll be slightly rude here. The other challenge is possibly you, in that you may have unreasonable expectations. It's a bit like some people go on Google and to check their health out. You find something that suits your argument, you agree it. You go into a forum and you agree it. But it's not what the rest of the market thinks. So you mustn't be drawn down the wrong path here and anchoring, for instance, on the wrong figure. We've all seen estate agents in Spain, Cyprus, around the world, where they have the pictures in the window and they're actually bleached by the sunlight. They've been there that long. That's the sort of thing that's going on, and that helps undermine, unfortunately, the market as well. And as I alluded to a quote earlier, one of it was actually a barrister in Spain. He said, the value equals the offer. Doesn't matter what anybody else thinks. If there's not loads of offers, there are very few properties in Spain or Cyprus where there's a bidding war. I can't even remember one. So it's, if you get the offer, that's the value. Some people on that basis then say, well, I'm going to hang on. My mortgage is 150,000 euro, therefore I've got to sell it for 150,000. And I was going to say I understand the logic. I don't. That's madness. If it is underwater slightly or a lot, it doesn't matter where you're going. There are solutions to that problem, but again, it comes back to the price. And any number of times people argue that say, but I think it's worth the 100,000 mortgage I got. We go, well, here's three comparables. It's not. We have a man on the ground in Spain and Cyprus, but particularly in Spain, a guy that works with banks who has the values like that. And he knows what's sold, what will sell, etc. And usually it's way away from what estate agents stick on the internet or in their shop windows. They're pampering to possibly your ego, your perception of where it is, but it's nowhere near the value. So that's the biggest issue. And it's still a buyer's market. As I say, you've got the Spanish coming into those low-level things that they can then buy on golf developments, coastal villages, etc. And with that, mortgages are pretty tight as well. So it's not, I don't think you can get away with less than the 30% deposit. I'd stand corrected by my friend Mark Elliott in San Pedro, a brilliant mortgage broker. But you've got to meet the criteria. The good old days that you could walk and breathe at the same time meant you got a Spanish mortgage. They've long gone. So again, these have the effect, and keep saying it, it's perspective, it's not a negative. A couple of tips if you're dealing with Spain: you have to be incredibly patient. They're slow on a good day. Mañana abounds. You will lose buyers. There's lots of tire kickers out there promising the world. And we can say this because we're involved. Every deal we're doing in Spain at the minute has to see a sale through. We had an instance the other week where somebody pulled out, taken them 3 months to get their act together to buy the property, pulled out 2 days before. And everything's lined up. Very important sale because of the gentleman in question is quite poorly. And you lose buyers. You have to be reasonable. You literally have to just let it wash over you and go with it. Be aware, I'm going to go through a little bit more detail. The associated costs of selling in Spain are very high. it can be between 12 and 15%, and it can be, and they're there. I'm going to go through the various elements of it, right? And just one last tip: work on the basis you're going to be disappointed. Everything else is a plus. And again, perspective. That's what we're giving here. We each and every one of those we suffer weekly. We manage to deal with the costs in terms of what we do. And in fact, if you have a property that's say close on equity of about 150,000, our route is actually cheaper than selling it. So we'll bear that in mind. We deal, as I said earlier, primarily in negative equity properties in Spain, Cyprus, and around the world, and other issues that arise from it. And we just see the difficulty. We'll come to Cyprus separately, but we see the difficulty of making sure that a property goes through. You, like I said, you are working from afar. Some people are loath to give powers of attorney, which I would as well if I didn't know the solicitor. If our solicitor gets a power of attorney, he can drive a sale because he hasn't got to. It hasn't got to come back on every point, right? So, right, this is where we go. It comes back on the important things, but not the ins and outs of everything. And as I say, our system works with him, which involves any number of Spanish statutes, negotiation skills, etc. But if there's any negative equity, it's going to be even worse with the cost plus the any price knock you've got to take. And also in our system as well, we can mop up outstanding IBI taxes plus management fees in the main. This often leads to a bit of frustration. We have any number of people that come to us and say that's enough and throw the keys, as it's affectionately known. Throwing the keys is a short-term gain, long-term problem, because that's when ultimately the bank have got to go through the legal process, which is torturous for them to repossess the property, and for want of a better phrase, it winds them up, and they're not happy by the time they come to you with the bill or the shortfall, whatever you want to do, and they can get very aggressive, and as bad, they sell it to vulture funds. As an example, as I said earlier, right, if you're trying to sell, say, a property for about 100,000 euros, these will be the associated costs. Legals will be in the region of 3,000, most likely including IVA, the local VAT, non-residence withholding tax, which nearly everybody has to pay, and it's very hard to recover, of 3%. On that sort of a value of unit, an agent will look to recover in the region of say 5,000, including IVA, and searches etc. will be about 1,000. So on that basis, you're most likely looking at 12% of deductions. If you then have the situation where you've got to have that wiggle room in your price and you've got to move down 10%, this is where you've got to have the right perception of what's going on. If you think it's 100,000 going in the list price, you're going to end up most likely with about 80. And it's a lot easier to deal with what is a stressful event if you've got that, if you're armed with that, rather than get the pain, it's death by 1,000 cuts. We most likely have to cut it by 10%. We've got 12% costs. We might end up with 80 grand-ish here. And it's very important to take that on board. The other thing you've got in Spain, I mentioned it very briefly, you've got the massive mañana factor. Trying to get anything done is a nightmare, which is why I said one of the tips is go with the flow. If you're looking to sell it quickly, you won't, unless you give it away. And you have to be very careful, as again, like I said, it's the locals versus us. Not a xenophobic comment, not a Farage comment, whatever you want to call it. It is what it is. It always has been. Johnny Foreigner came over here, bought our place. If anybody has some misfortune to get into litigation, essentially you haven't got a chance, or very little chance, unless you have top representation. So that's Spain. Frustrating, great place, selling a property, hard work. Excuse me. Cyprus. I always call Cyprus the Wild West. It is frustrating. It's challenging for us, but I quite enjoy it because you have to go wherever the case goes. There's no absolutely cast iron way of doing things, and the Cypriots they're a very proud nation. They were under the auspice of the IMF back in 2012, and they were told to sort out their land registry. to this day, it's not sorted, and that's almost as though they've given two fingers to the IMF. Don't tell us what to do. It's very weird and strange mentality, but it is what it is. With that backdrop, then you've got like I say, you've got to go with the punches with it. It's awkward, but again, with the right team, and our barrister is a man about 5'8" stature, George, great guy, and he doesn't miss anybody. He just goes straight to the deal. Let's get this done. He brings out every question, but he's also, I'd suggest, he's more route one than me, and that he'll just tell you the way it is. But people need that. The issues we particularly face in Cyprus when property's got to be sold are always the big one: deeds. I don't know what the actual percentage is of properties that still don't have deeds, but I would suggest it's high 60s still in what we come across. You've also got the backdrop of developers seem to come out the woodwork when the sale comes up, suddenly making possibly crazy demands, unfounded demands and everything else at their own property, and they have to be sorted before you can proceed on. And the other one are the banks themselves in terms of their ability to do anything. They are lethargic, inept. If any banks are watching this in Cyprus, I'm not going to apologise for that fact because I've endured you for many years. And so you've got that backdrop for them to come up with redemption figures, etc., etc. They use carrier pigeon, fax machines, everything else. So they're just a nuisance. Strangely enough, there's not too many issues with agents because they get what they get. They're just going to sell it, and they're pretty straight up and down. And with our legal team, I'm not selling the legal team, but you do. There are some real rogues in Cyprus on the legal side, and some shocking levels of advice and levels of service are just absolutely disgusting. So legals can be overcome. Massive problem in Cyprus, similar to Spain, is getting the price right. And one other tip, sorry, before I go on: never overprice a property and never price it on your ego. With respect, if you do that and you price, you say it's 400, but you've got the impression it's 500, it's so hard to sell because you're not going to get 500. And then when you have to discount it back to 400, you get to a situation where, hang on a minute, that was on for 500, now it's 400. There's something wrong with it. And it's a classic, no matter where you're in the world, where people push the price too far. I've got a guy in England that had a property on for 4 million, and he can't sell it at 2.5 because he's absolutely scuppered it with a crazy opening price. It's just madness. And it's particularly hard in Cyprus to get comparables and the like because their style of property is very different. In Spain, you usually got, say, an urbanisation or a street or some apartments. Cyprus is nearly every development is different. In the development, many different styles of properties. There can be small developments, just scattered developments, individual houses. There's a lot more variety in property type, and so getting comparables is really difficult. Like I said at the beginning of this section, deeds are the main issue. No deeds, cash buyers, no mortgages are available, and you attract a certain type of buyer, also known as sharks, and they know they can smell the blood, and you can only ever have cash buyers. There's a lot around, but then if you've got a property that's got any issues, etc., the price just gets obliterated. If you try and get your deeds, that can be a very time-consuming and costly process. It can be done, but it's with respect, it's too complex to go on here to be a small flow chart on the wall there, because you've got the bank involved, obviously yourself, the bank, the developer in all likelihood, the local council, the national council, national government, and land registry. And apart from our legal team and you, the rest are inept at best, and it's very hard to reinstate. And then I commented on earlier, the value essentially equals any offer made, especially in Cyprus. You may have the idea, or an estate agent puts it in your head that something's worth 100,000 and it's actually worth 70,000 because that's somebody bid. If there are no other bids, that's the value. So it's again, there's no bidding wars. We're not in the M25 in luscious suburbs and the like. This is, excuse my French, the arse end of somewhere in all likelihood, and if somebody falls in love with it, that's the buyer. What they say is they're offering is the value. Sorry, we've got quite a warm day in Belfast, which is quite a rarity, so I'll just keep taking a few drinks here. I said banks are amazingly inept, and our barrister gets frustrated to hell, to the extent I'll give you just a quick example of the amazing bureaucracy they managed to build into their system. They're useless to start with, but now they decide to get very bureaucratic and try and cover over a few cracks. Our barrister's brother is a bank manager in Larnaca, and George went in. There was some paperwork to conclude something we were doing, and his brother required ID. And I won't give you any of the commentary of what our barrister said, but it was he wasn't welcome to Sunday lunch that week, or words to that effect. And it's not funny. It's just, it scuppers deals. Purchasers just run away in the end. It's the same in Spain. Eventually, purchasers tell you what, especially if it's negative equity and you're relying on the bank to say yes or no, buyers go. They have the choice. So it's very, very frustrating. If it is in negative equity, we do have a route through this with our barrister. And there's an offer at the back end of this webinar where, if you want to come as a client, we'll discount given on the basis that somebody has attended this webinar. And in Spain, we have that route as well. Yes, there's an associated cost, but it gets it done. That's what we're saying at the end of the day. If you're an equity, cool, go with the flow, get whatever you can out of it. But if it's close, but close in sensible terms or underwater, then it's something that we can take a lot of this selling process through. Despite me calling it the Wild West, Cyprus, the costs are pretty reasonable in terms of selling. They're nothing like, I think it ends up being about maximum about 6% across the board in terms of all the associated costs, so 6 or 7%, which is pretty good, unlike Spain where you're talking 12, potentially 15%. I'm just going to touch briefly on a couple of experiences we've got in other properties around the world that we do deal with. And I said we're quite exotically New Zealand, America. Yeah, we've done a few cases in both places. Quite a bit in Eastern Europe. We do a bit of work in France, which is a very frustrating market in that if somebody's bought the farmhouse in Provence, it's the sale, actual securing a sale is very hard in France unless essentially you're selling to another person that wants a holiday home. It's really quite difficult. The locals have their own market. They stick in there, and it's a slow selling process. There'll be instances where it's quite quick, but that's most likely because it's priced well or whatever, and it's very attractive in terms of finding a buyer. But it is very difficult. That Provence dream, especially when you start going mid-country more, it's really, really tough. In Italy, you can be slower if you try it. And the big stumbling block there is also always the local government areas, the councils and whatever, trying to get anything from them. That's a frustration. Obviously, we experience now in England a lot, what with working from home and the like. You know, the land registry in the UK has gone absolutely to pot. It used to be a brilliant system, but it's way out of sync. We have experiences in Bulgaria. Quite a few people have bought ski apartments and ski chalets. Essentially, Bulgaria, and I have a vested interest, so you know, my daughter lives in Bulgaria, my son-in-law and my grandchildren are there. Basically, Bulgaria is lawless when it comes to anything like this. You have, whatever you can think of the worst experience, it'll happen in Bulgaria if you have a property. But we do have a brilliant legal contact out there, and again, if you want that, if you need that information, give us a call and I'll put you in touch with my son-in-law who's there, and he'll take you to a lady there who is a tough cookie. We have the Swiss franc mortgage experience, which extends a lot across Eastern Europe. We've dealt with cases in Poland, in Hungary, and Czechoslovakia. So it's a prevalent problem across the world. A lot of people have ignored it, but it's coming back out through the loan sales. So it's very important to address that. And it's, as ever, it's a difficult thing to do from afar. It really is. It's thankless. And the couple of the tips I gave in the Spanish section there, it really is to get that mindset that day one, right, we're going to sell it. This is going to be difficult. Okay, go with that. Be surprised if it's any easier. Really, it's a genuine, because we experience the issues. We experience from a commercial angle, and we're slightly hardened to it. We're not surprised when somebody drops out of. We're disappointed. We're not surprised if somebody pulls out of a sale 2 days prior to completion, because we've experienced it. we've experienced title deeds problems, etc., etc. You as individuals, obviously, this is very important to you, and I'm just trying to get. But I keep saying it's pitfalls that are coming. It's advice. It's not negativity. It's not, oh, don't sell it. If you want to sell it, you got to sell it. But the point and purpose of these webinars is to relay and impart some information and content that hopefully is useful in what you're doing. So this is going to be a relatively short webinar because it's specific on the selling pitfalls, as it were. And I'll just give you a quick summary here. It's not easy. Like I say, work on the basis you're going to be disappointed. Be surprised when it's a bit easier than you thought. Face the pitfalls. You have to. You have to be aware of them. You'll be, the slowness of the system, the inept, the inefficiencies, whatever. Just keep with it. You'll get there. If you want legal advice, I will offer you the details of our two people, and we have others. Like we've got some people in Bulgaria that are quite good. But be pragmatic. You know, you're a landlord from afar. It's not. I'm not trying to labour on you've made a mistake by buying it. It's not that at all. It's just saying this is tough. From here, if you've got any specific queries that you want to bring up from this brief webinar, do so. There'll be some contact details attached to this. Reach out to us, and I'll answer them for free. Okay. If we go on a bit and we do some work together here, and you want us to help you and whatever, we give you a quote, we will discount that by 15% for the next 7 days from when we air this. So it's there as an offer, free advice in the immediate term, free access to our solicitors if it's specifically on selling a property, and also 15% discount if you want to take us on board. So that's us, keeping it relatively short and sweet. I thank you for your time. Contact details will be available, and I wish you good luck if you're selling a property wherever it may be. Again, pitfalls. Be transparent and make sure you see it through well. Good luck. Bye bye. Farewell. Cheers.